Ethan Cole didn't expect a hero's welcome. He just wanted rest. After spending 7 years working on starships and supply routes between dying colonies, he was tired. The war against the parasite that had spread through half the galaxy had ended only 3 years ago, and the galaxy was still healing. Ethan had played his small part, setting up emergency hospitals, fixing old oxygen scrubbers, and helping evacuate infected zones. He had never held a gun or given a speech. He just did his job and survived. Now, as his transport ship landed on Valerian 9, he hoped this peaceful world would be a quiet break before his next assignment. But what waited for him wasn't quiet. As soon as the landing bay opened, a group of tall, silver-eyed aliens stood in perfect formation. They wore long flowing robes and strange glass medallions on their foreheads. These were the Valerians, known for their calm minds and deep emotional senses. One of them stepped forward and bowed. "Welcome, Engineer Ethan Cole," she said in fluent English. "The council awaits." Ethan blinked. The council? But you saved our world," she replied simply. "Tonight we honor you." Sunset. Ethan found himself sitting in a grand circular hall filled with glowing blue crystals and soft music. The food was unlike anything he had ever seen. Plants that shimmered, drinks that tasted like memory, and music that seemed to speak directly to his heart. The high speaker, an older Valerian male with silver veins under his skin, stood at the center of the room and raised his hands. 3 cycles ago, our people were near extinction. The parasite devoured our young, stole our memories, and broke our unity. It was humanity that helped us fight back. It was this man, he pointed at Ethan, who restored our hospitals and rebuilt our hope. The room fell silent. Ethan scratched the back of his neck, feeling awkward. "He didn't do anything special, did he?" The speaker continued. "According to our ancient law, one who saves the future may help shape it." The crowd murmured in agreement. "We offer you a sacred gift. Twin daughters of our house." Evel and Sarah, a soft bell chimed. From behind the curtain, 2 tall Valerian women stepped forward. They were identical, long silver hair, soft violet robes, and eyes that looked like stars. They walked gracefully and stood beside Ethan. With gentle smiles, the room erupted in soft AGE. Humming approval, the Valerian version of applause. Ethan nearly choked on his drink. "Wait, what?" he whispered to the guide beside him. "Did they just offer me?" "Them?" The guide nodded calmly. "They are volunteers, chosen and honored. This is a gift." Ethan laughed nervously. "Is this some kind of joke? A cultural tradition or ceremony?" The guide tilted her head. "Do you refuse?" I just thought this wasn't real," Ethan stammered. "You said, help shape the future. What does that mean?" "To help rebuild our people," the guide said, as if it were obvious. Ethan forced a smile and nodded politely. Maybe it was just symbolic. Maybe they meant friendship. Besides, it would be rude to say no at a fancy alien banquet. "Okay," he said slowly. Thank you. That's very generous." The room hummed again in approval. The twin sisters both bowed their heads slightly and returned to their seats. Ethan sighed. Just a misunderstanding. Probably just tradition. Nothing strange, right? Later that night, Ethan sat in his assigned quarters, a beautiful domed room, surrounded by glowing plants and gentle lights. He had changed into comfortable clothes and was reading an old Earth novel on his tablet. Everything seemed peaceful again, until the door chimed. He opened it. Evel and Sarah stood in the doorway, still in their violet robes, their faces calm and peaceful. They held no bags, no tools, no translator devices, just themselves. "Hi," Ethan said. "Unsure what else to say, we have come," Evel said gently. "To begin," Sarah added. Ethan blinked. "Begin what exactly?" They stepped inside, as if invited. The door closed softly behind them. Ethan froze. "I think there's been a mix-up," he said quickly. "Look, you're both very kind. But I didn't actually, I thought. The thing earlier was just tradition." It was, Evil said. But it is also truth, Sarah added. Ethan ran a hand down his face. Okay, let's slow down. I'm just a mechanic, not a hero. I didn't come here for ... this. You came here because your mind is strong, Evil said. And your heart is not afraid, Sarah added. Ethan shook his head. Look, I appreciate the poetry, but I don't think I'm supposed to wait. You volunteered? They both nodded. Double quotes. No one forced you. Okay with this? Eval stepped closer, gently touching his wrist. Her touch was warm, her expression open. We are not here to serve you. We are here to build with you. To heal what was broken, Sarah whispered, together. Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to this. On Earth no one talked like this. No one looked at him like this. Not with reverence, not with purpose. Wasn't a soldier or a diplomat. Just a tired man who fixed things, and yet something in their eyes, a calm honesty, told him they weren't pretending. They meant every word. Maybe they didn't come here for romance, or maybe they came for something deeper. Ethan took a slow breath and stepped back. Okay, he said finally. We'll talk. Just talk. Deal. Eval smiled softly. That is how all things begin. Sarah nodded. And how many great things are saved. The three of them sat around the quiet table as night fell, shadows, dancing on the dome ceiling. Outside, the twin moons of Valerianine rose above the horizon, casting a soft silver glow, and deep in his heart, Ethan knew, ... this was no joke. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. Evel and Sarah had stayed for hours, speaking softly, answering his questions and asking many of their own. They were calm, patient, and spoke with a strange rhythm, not robotic, but deeply thoughtful. Every sentence from them sounded like it had meaning. Ethan had expected them to leave after their conversation, but instead, they remained quietly sitting on the floor, watching the moons, saying nothing. It wasn't uncomfortable, just unusual. Finally, Ethan gave up trying to understand it all and lay down on the bed, muttering, "This planet is weird." In the morning, both sisters were still there. The next day, Ethan walked through the Valerian city with Sarah beside him. Evel had gone to meet with a dream circle, whatever that meant. The city was beautiful. Floating bridges, glowing trees, and soft crystal lights that never hurt the eyes. There were no vehicles, no loud sounds, and no rushing crowds. Sarah explained that Valerians didn't measure time the way humans did. They didn't believe in rushing. Their buildings were made from living stone, shaped over years using sound and patience. Nothing here was artificial. Even the lights were grown from bioluminescent plants. "It's peaceful," Ethan said, looking around. "It must be," Sarah replied. "Our minds are connected to what surrounds us. Noise breaks the heart." Ethan nodded slowly. Didn't fully understand it, but he respected it. Later that afternoon, he met with the high speaker again. The elder welcomed him with a gentle smile and a slow bow. "I trust you are settling in, Ethan Cole." Ethan hesitated. "Yes, but I have questions. Speak freely about the twins, about what happened at the banquet." The high speaker's smile faded into a thoughtful expression. "You were surprised by our gift. That's putting it lightly." The elder looked into his eyes. "We do not trade people. Evel and Sarah are sacred daughters of our house, but they chose this role. Your DNA is unique. It resists the damage the parasite caused. You carry a signal of healing." Ethan frowned. "So, this isn't about romance or marriage?" "No," the elder replied. "It is about restoration. We've lost almost an entire generation. Our young can no longer form full minds. But when joined with a human mind, strong, unbroken, they grow whole again. So, you want me to help? Have children?" "Yes. But not only that, you would help anchor our future. We are not asking you to take anyone. We are asking you to stand beside them." Ethan rubbed his face. "Came here to fix machines, not rebuild a species." The elder's eyes softened. "Sometimes the universe asks us for more than we expect." That night, Ethan returned to his quarters. Evel was waiting for him. She stood near the window, watching the sky. "I heard you spoke to the council," she said without turning. "I did. And now you carry questions." Ethan nodded. Too many, I want to do the right thing. Turned to him, her expression calm. We do not expect you to become one of us in a day, but we want you to know the truth, which is... She stepped closer and touched his arm, just lightly. We are not broken, but we are incomplete. The parasite left a wound in our spirit. You, and others like you. Help us close it. Sighed. I don't want to hurt you, or make a mistake. You won't, she said simply, because your heart asks that question. Over the next few days, Ethan spent more time with the twins. They never rushed him, never asked for anything. But they stayed close, walking with him through gardens, showing him old songs, even teaching him how to feel the emotional wind that passed between. Valerian's like an invisible river. He began to see what made them so different. They didn't lie. They didn't pretend. When they were sad, they shared it. When they were happy, they let it show without shame. One evening, Ethan found Sarah sitting alone in the garden. She was holding a flower that changed color with her mood. It was glowing a soft blue, the color of calm she had told him earlier. Are you okay? He asked. She looked up and nodded. Yes, but I sense your fear. Ethan sat beside her. It's not fear. Not really. It's not knowing what I am supposed to do. You are supposed to be here, she said. With us. That is all. That simple? Yes. He picked a flower and watched it shift from green to pale yellow. In his hands, curious, uncertain. I'm not a hero, he said. I just fixed things. You fix more than machines, she said softly. You fixed our silence. You brought back sound. Ethan looked at her. What does that mean? When the parasite came, it didn't only kill bodies. It broke our connection. We couldn't hear each other anymore. Only the twins, bonded twins, can still speak fully through mind and emotion, but they need balance. You are balance. He didn't answer. The wind moved gently through the garden, carrying a soft hum from distant crystal trees. That night, the twins joined him again in the dome room. This time, Ethan didn't feel unsure. He sat with them at the table, shared warm tea, and told them stories from Earth about rainy cities, pizza, loud music, and old movies. They listened with wide eyes and soft laughter. Evol smiled. Your world is loud, but colorful, Sarah added. You'd hate it, Ethan joked. Perhaps Evil said. Or perhaps we would bring balance. Ethan looked at them both. Calm, kind, strange. And yet more honest than anyone he'd known in years. He realized something that made his chest tighten. He didn't want to leave. Not yet as he lay down to rest. He looked at the ceiling of the dome, glowing softly, with star patterns. Evel and Sarah sat in the corner again, whispering in their own tongue. Watching the moons, he whispered to himself, maybe I didn't come here for them, but maybe I needed them anyway. Outside, the wind carried a deep, distant sound. The planet was stirring, and something hidden was waiting to rise. Ethan woke to silence. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that makes your skin feel cold before you even get out of bed. The kind of silence that feels wrong. The glowing ceiling of his room had dimmed. The soft star patterns were gone. Even the humming crystal lights outside the window had turned gray. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. What time is it? No answer. Then he noticed Evel and Sarah were gone. He stood and stepped outside. The hallway was empty, usually soft. Music floated through the air, or plant lights danced gently around the walls. Now, everything felt still dead. Then came the low sound, a deep vibration, like a distant drumbeat inside the ground. He followed the sound through the hallway and out into the garden. A few Valerians were standing there, looking up at the sky. Their faces were pale, their silver eyes wide with fear. Ethan looked up. The stars were moving, not twinkling, sliding, warping, and then darkness. The moons of Valerenine, which always shone brightly at night, were suddenly covered by a black wave, as if something massive had passed in front of them. Ethan. Cole, a voice called softly behind him. He turned. Evel and Sarah were there, both trembling. Their hair was blowing in the wind, though there was no breeze. Sarah's eyes were filled with tears. "What's happening?" Ethan asked. "The Reclaimer," Evel said. "It has returned." Inside the main hall, the High Council gathered. In silence. Elder Valerians stood in long cloaks, their hands locked together, eyes closed, as if trying to speak without words. But it was clear something had gone wrong. It's very wrong. Ethan sat with Evel and Sarah at his side, confused and tense. "What is the Reclaimer?" he asked. The High Speaker opened his eyes slowly. It was the root of the parasite. Not a creature, but a force. A shadow that infects thought, memory, connection. We believed it was destroyed after the war. But it was only sleeping. How did it return? We don't know. But it grows again, silently. Ethan looked at the twins. "You knew something was wrong." "Yes," Sarah whispered. "Last night, I felt it inside Evel." Ethan turned to Evel in shock. "You're infected?" Evel nodded slowly. "It touched my mind. It showed me false dreams. I could not stop it. But you look fine. You're talking. You're here. That is how it begins," Sarah said. "It pretends to be a memory, a soft voice. Then it spreads." The High Speaker stood. "There is no cure for the Reclaimer. Once it roots deeply, only unity can fight it. A bond stronger than the infection. The twins are our last defense, but now one is wounded." Ethan stood. "What can I do?" The speaker looked at him with calm eyes. "You were never meant only to help repopulate. You were chosen because your mind resists the parasite, because your thoughts are strong." "I'm no telepath," Ethan said. "I don't even understand half of what you all say." "But you feel, Ethan," Evel said gently. "You feel deeply. That protects you, and us." That night the garden was filled with soft lights again, but not for beauty. It was for defense. Evel sat in the middle of a stone circle, surrounded by healers. Her skin was pale, her breath was slow. The infection was growing inside her thoughts. Ethan stood with Sarah. "You can stop this," she whispered. "How?" "By linking. She nodded. "You open your mind to hers. You step into her thoughts, even the dark ones. You bring her back." Ethan looked unsure. "I'm not trained." "What if I break something?" Sarah touched his hand. "Won't, because you care." The healers guided Ethan into the circle, sat in front of Evel and placed both hands on her face. Her eyes fluttered open, scared, lost. "It's me," he whispered. "I'm here." A light passed between them, not physical, but real. Suddenly he wasn't in the garden anymore. He stood in a twisted version of Valeria. The trees were black. The sky was blood red. The crystal towers were broken. And Evel was standing in the middle alone, crying. "Ethan," she whispered. "I'm here," he said, stepping forward. "You're not alone." She shook her hand. "I can't find my way out. The voices are too loud." "Then listen to mine," the wind screamed. Shadows moved at the edge of the trees, the Reclaimer, hiding, waiting. Ethan felt the fear pressing in, trying to confuse him. But he held on to Evel's hand. "You are not broken," he said. "You're just lost, but I found you." Her breathing slowed. The world around them began to shift. The red sky faded. The black trees became gray, then green. But the shadow lunged, a shape with no form. It's just emotion, rage, hunger, regret. It slammed into Ethan's mind and stopped, because it couldn't find anything to feed on. No fear, no guilt, just resolve. Ethan stood strong. "You don't belong here," he said aloud. "She's not yours." The shadow screamed and shattered into 1,000. Fading sparks, Ethan opened his eyes. He was back in the garden. Evel gasped and fell forward, breathing heavily. But alive, the healers rushed in. Sarah ran to her sister and hugged her tightly, crying. "You did it," she whispered. "You brought her back." The High Speaker approached Ethan, who looked pale and weak. You are more than an engineer, the elder said. You are now part of us. Ethan didn't answer. He looked at Evil, who opened her eyes and gave him a tired smile. He smiled back, and he knew something had changed that night. He stood outside the dome looking up at the sky. The moons were back. The stars were quiet. Sarah stood beside him. She will rest now, she said. But she is safe. Good, Ethan whispered. You are changing to Ethan. He looked at her. How? Your thoughts. There. Stronger, sharper. You're starting to hear things, feel things the way we do. Ethan stayed silent for a moment. Maybe I was meant to come here, he said finally. Not just to help, but to become something more. Sarah took his hand. The story is just beginning. And far above them, in the dark sky, a small shimmer of light moved, watching. Waiting, the reclaimer was not finished, but neither was Ethan. Eval slept for 2 days after the mind link. Her body had recovered, but her spirit was still weak. The healers said the infection was removed, but its echo remained. It had left a scar deep in her memory. Ethan stayed by her side most of the time. He didn't talk much. He just watched her breathe, listened to her soft heartbeat, thought about what had happened in that dream world. He still didn't understand how he had done it, how he had pushed back the reclaimer.
Oh.
But one thing was clear now. This fight wasn't over. Meanwhile, strange things began to happen in the Valerian city. The crystal lights flickered more often. The plant stopped glowing in some places. Several young Valerians started falling silent, not sick, but empty. They sat alone, stared at the walls, and refused to speak. Some cried without knowing why. Sarah explained it to Ethan one evening as they walked through the garden. The parasite has changed, she said. Before it attacked the body, now it attacks the emotions. Ethan frowned. How? It hides in guilt, regret, loneliness. It waits for someone to feel pain, then it spreads like fire. Then how did I survive the link with Evel? She looked at him gently. Because you carried no guilt. Only hope. Ethan thought about it. Maybe I just don't think about the past much. Exactly, she said. That is your strength. The next morning, the high speaker called Ethan into the council hall. This time, the mood was serious. No music, no ceremony. The reclaimer has entered the city, the elder said. It moves silently through our people, using their fears. Ethan crossed his arms. Why can't your telepaths find it? They cannot hear it. It doesn't speak like before. It hides inside those we trust. Even the healers may carry it. A cold thought passed through Ethan's mind. You think one of the twins might still be infected? No, the speaker said. They are connected. If it reaches one again, it will destroy them both. Ethan stepped forward. What do you need from me? The speaker looked into his eyes. You must enter the link chamber. Ethan blinked. What's that? It's ancient Valerian technology, a place where minds and memories become visible. You can walk through them. Search for the reclaimer's core. Ethan paused. You want me to? Walk through someone's thoughts? Yes, the speaker said. But not just one person. You will enter the collective mind of our people. Ethan let out a long breath. And if I get lost, Stara, standing nearby, spoke softly, I will come with you. The link chamber was deep underground below the oldest tree in the city. It was round, made of smooth black stone that hummed when touched. In the center was a circle of seats and a floating crystal core. Ethan and Sarah stood facing each other. A healer placed a silver ring around each of their heads. This will allow your minds to connect, the healer said. You must stay close. If your emotions separate too far, the link will break, and your thoughts will be lost forever. Ethan chuckled nervously. No pressure. Sarah took his hand. We'll go together. The healer activated the chamber. A bright white light flashed, and then everything changed. They stood on a bridge made of light, floating over a sea of glowing memories. Shapes moved below, faces, places, voices. Some were joyful. Others were filled with sorrow. This is the collective mind of Valeria, Sarah said. Every feeling, every moment, shared by our people. Ethan looked around. It's beautiful and terrifying. A sudden wind passed by, cold and sharp. The memories below rippled like water. Sarah's eyes narrowed. It's here. They followed the feeling, moving across the bridge as the world around them shifted. The sky turned darker. The sea below grew still and silent. Then they saw it. A black hole slowly spinning in the air. Inside it, nothing. No emotion. Light, just emptiness. The Reclaimer's core, Sarah whispered. It's feeding on the collective. Ethan stepped closer. His chest tightened. For the first time in days, he felt. Not for others, but for himself. He saw flashes of his past being alone on Earth. Working endless nights, being forgotten after the war. He had told himself it didn't matter. But here the truth surfaced. He had always felt replaceable. Small. A helper in someone else's story. And that was exactly what the Reclaimer wanted. He fell to one knee. Ethan. Sarah shouted, grabbing his arm. The hole reached toward him like a shadow hand, pulling at his thoughts. You're not enough, a voice whispered. You were never chosen, only used. But another voice pushed through, softer, real. Saara. You are not a shadow, she whispered. You gave light, you saved Eval, you saved me. Asun opened his eyes, and something inside him changed. He believed her. He stood, holding her hand tightly. Together, they walked toward the black hole. It roared with rage, sending waves of sadness and fear, but neither of them let go. Ethan reached forward and touched the core. A flash, a scream, then silence. He opened his eyes inside the link chamber. Sarah was beside him, breathing fast but smiling. The healer looked shocked. You touched the core? Ethan nodded. It's broken now. For real this time, the healer bowed. You have done what no one else could. Sarah leaned against him. You didn't just fight it, you forgave yourself. Ethan smiled slightly. Took long enough. Later that evening, the sky over Valeria was clear. The moons shone bright again. The plants began to glow softly, and the crystal towers hummed with energy. Evil walked to the garden, stronger than before. When she saw Ethan and Sarah, she smiled warmly. You brought peace back, she said. Ethan looked at both of them. No, we did. The three of them sat together as the wind carried soft songs from the nearby towers. The city was healing, but deep in the stars, something still watched. The Reclaimer was broken but not dead. And the next battle might not be on Valeria. It might be on Earth. Ethan woke up to the sound of music. Real music. For the first time since his arrival, the Valerian city was alive again. Crystal towers glowed with soft colors. Singing trees hummed with warm energy. People walked in groups again, smiling. Talking, laughing, the nightmare had passed. But inside Ethan's heart, something still felt different. Not wrong, just new. Sarah noticed it too. You feel it, she said that morning, as they stood under a silver-leafed tree. Ethan nodded. I don't know what it is, but I'm not the same. You're not, she said gently. Your mind touched the core of our pain, and you didn't fall. That changed you. Ethan took a deep breath. I still feel human. But not only human, she smiled. Maybe you're something more now. Later that day, the council invited Ethan to the hall again. This time, the meeting was not about fear, but future. The high speaker stood tall, his silver robe flowing with the light. Ethan Cole, he said, you have done more than we ever asked. You did not only defend our people, you entered our mind, our memories, and helped us heal. The room hummed with calm approval. The elder continued, Now we ask you for one final step. Ethan tilted his head. What is it, we ask? You two entered the bonding chamber, with Eval and Sarah. Ethan blinked. Bonding? What kind of bonding? The speaker smiled. Not what you think. It is not marriage. It is alignment of mind, emotion, and purpose. If the bond is successful, your thoughts will become part of our collective. You will help guide our young. You will become part of our memory. Ethan looked at Evel and Sarah. They said nothing, but their eyes told him they were ready. Will it hurt? He asked. No, the elder said. But it will. Reveal everything. You cannot hide in the bond. Ethan looked down at his hands. And if I fail? You won't, Evel said softly. The bonding chamber was nothing like the link chamber. It was open under the sky. 3 stone circles stood around a pool of glowing water. The moon shone above, and the stars reflected in the pool as if watching closely. Ethan stood in one circle. Evel and Sarah stood in the others. When the ritual began, the air grew warm. A breeze lifted their hair. The pool in the center began to glow brighter. A voice spoke not from any person but from within. Open, share, trust. A tug in his chest, and then he saw everything. He stood in Eval's memories. He saw her as a child, floating in a learning circle, dreaming of music and sky. He saw her crying when her first twin sister died at birth, and the pain that followed her for years. He felt her joy the day she met Sarah, another soul twin who helped her feel whole again. He saw her fear when the parasite returned, her worry when Ethan arrived, and her hope when he chose to stay. Then the vision shifted. He stood in Sarah's thoughts. He saw her loneliness before, Evel, her love for knowledge, her quiet courage during the war. He saw the exact moment she realized she would risk everything for her sister. He saw her watching. Ethan from afar, wondering if this strange human would really care, wondering if he would see them as people, not a duty. And then Ethan saw himself, but not from his own eyes. From theirs, he saw the way they looked at him not as a hero, but as a steady flame, a calming presence, someone who listened, even when confused, someone who never looked away when things got hard. Tears filled his eyes. I didn't know, he whispered. You never asked, a voice said gently. The light faded. Ethan opened his eyes. The moons were still above. The pool still glowed, but something had changed. He looked at Evel, then at Sarah. They both nodded, in perfect silence, as if hearing his heart without words. The bond was complete. Over the next days, the city changed. Slowly but clearly, children began to laugh. Again, crops grew stronger. Emotions flowed more freely. The parasite's shadow had been broken. But something else had begun to rise. Rebirth. Evel and Sarah became teachers, guiding young minds with new strength. They sang together often, their voices healing even the air around them. Ethan helped design new systems, energy grids, learning centers, transport rings. His mind now worked faster, his thoughts more connected. He didn't just fix machines anymore, he designed futures. And for the first time in his life, Ethan didn't feel like a visitor. He felt at home. One evening, while walking alone near the edge of the forest, Ethan noticed something strange. A flicker of movement above the sky. He focused. It wasn't a star, not a ship either. It was a signal, a pulse, faint, but familiar. He ran to the council hall. Evel and Sarah followed. It's from Earth, he said. A distress beacon. Da. The speaker's face grew serious. Earth, Ethan nodded. It's weak, but it's there. Sarah stepped forward. If Earth is calling, something is wrong, Evel added, and the reclaimer may not be finished. The speaker spoke softly. The shadow always looks for new ground. Perhaps now it seeks your world. Ethan took a deep breath. I have to go back. No, Evel said. We have to go. He looked at both of them. But this is your home. You are our home, Sarah said. That night, the 3 stood under the sky, watching as a ship prepared to launch the first Valerian ship to head for Earth in decades. Ethan placed his hand on the smooth hull and smiled. Looks like I'm not just repopulating anymore. Evel chuckled. You're protecting, Sarah added, and beginning something new. As the engines roared to life and the stars stretched wide above, Ethan looked at his two bonded companions, and for the first time, he felt ready not just to go back to Earth, but to change it. The stars slid past like streaks of light as the ship crossed into human space. Ethan stood in the control room, watching Earth slowly grow larger on the screen. It looked peaceful from here. Blue oceans, white clouds, soft land, deep inside. He knew something was wrong. The signal was still active, faint, broken, but repeating the same message: emergency. Planet-wide communication collapse. Major cities offline. Unknown infection spreading. Help. Sarah worked at the console decoding the frequencies. Evol checked the scans. There's movement, Evol said, but not like before. Ethan nodded. It's not a machine this time. No, Sarah said quietly. It's something deeper, something alive. It landed near a once busy city, Tokyo. What they found was silence. No flying cars, no people in the sky towers. City had become a ghost. Buildings stood like giants, sleeping in sadness. Streets were cracked. Drones lay broken. And everywhere, strange black vines curled around machines and metal. Pulsing slowly like breathing skin, Ethan crouched and touched the vines. They twitched. This is it, he whispered. The reclaimer, Sarah scanned it. It's changed. It's no longer just tech. It's organic. It has learned, Evil added. It wants to blend, not just control. Ethan looked around. It's using emotion now. Not fear, but comfort. That's why people gave up. They didn't fight. They just let go. He looked up at the quiet towers. It made them tired. Deeper in the city, they found survivors. A group of humans, pale, weak eyes, glazed, sat under a broken roof. They were humming the same sound over and over. Their skin was wrapped in thin black lines, not painful, just there. Attached, one of them looked up at Ethan. You came back, she said. But why fight peace? Ethan stepped forward. This isn't peace. This is forgetting. She smiled. That's the point. Ethan shook his head. Not for me.
Not for us.
He took out a small crystal from his belt, a gift from the Valerian core. He pressed it to the ground. A pulse spread out. The vines recoiled slightly. Some of the black faded. The woman blinked. What? What was that? Memory, Sarah said. Real memory. Yours. The vines twitched again, this time more violently, as if angry. It knows we're here, Evil whispered. That night, they set up a signal tower using both Earth tech and Valerian memory circuits. If they could reach other survivors, they could wake them up. But the reclaimer struck back. Vines surged from the ground, wrapping the tower. A deep hum began, almost like music, but twisted low. Tempting, Ethan grabbed his tools and ran toward the base. I need 10 minutes. He shouted, SAARA, and Evil stood beside him, hands raised, her thoughts focused. A circle of energy formed, a barrier of light and memory. As Ethan worked, the hum grew stronger. His head started to ache. Thoughts blurred, began to forget why he came. But then, he heard Avel's voice, not from her mouth, but inside his mind. Stay with us. You are not alone. And Sarah added, remember who you are. The fog lifted. He slammed the final piece into place. The tower flashed. A loud ping echoed across the city, and then the vines screamed. Across the world, the signal reached old bunkers, shelters, hidden labs. Humans slowly opened their eyes. The fog in their minds faded. They remembered birthdays, songs, children, tears. They began to fight back, and Earth began to wake up. In the days that followed, the reclaimer began to shrink. Without emotional control, it couldn't grow. It couldn't feed on human thoughts. Ethan and the twins led rescue teams. They shared Valerian healing tech, memory links, emotional stabilizers. Slowly, humans rebuilt their cities, not just with steel and circuits, but with stories. Shared dreams. Music. One evening, Ethan sat under a tree in what used to be a park. Children ran nearby. Drones flew again, not for war, but for play. Evol joined him, sitting close. You did it, she said. No, Ethan replied. We did. Sarah came too, handing him a small glowing orb. What's this? Ethan asked. A gift, she smiled. From the Valerian Council. You are now an ambassador, Ethan laughed. From mechanic to ambassador. That's quite a jump. You earned it, Evil said. You gave both our worlds a second chance. That night, under a sky full of stars, Ethan looked up. He thought of the moment he first landed on Valeria. How confused he was. How strange the offer had sounded. Twin sisters? Repopulation? It had felt like a joke. But now, it was no joke. It was a story, a journey, a new beginning. He looked at Sarah and Evel. Together, they had not just survived. It changed two worlds. It helped rebuild hope. He smiled. Let's write a new future, he said. They nodded, and the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter.